his travels. First of all, the ritual of the Hajj that I mentioned, in addition to its ritual significance, it also has always served as a kind of culturally unifying force in the Islamic world. It draws people in from the peripheries of the Islamic world towards the center, where they meet and mingle and talk and study together, and then they drift back out to the peripheries, bringing that knowledge back with them. They exchange ideas constantly. And in fact, Ibn Battuta did stay in Mecca for several years, simply studying. Also, for him, everything that he saw, he interpreted within this framework of kind of the question of what is it to be a Muslim. Things like, for instance, when he saw a free hospital in Cairo, immediately sees this in terms of Islamic piety. Everything, it seems, that he was looking at, he was interpreting in this way, what makes us alike and what makes us different. There was also a sort of infrastructure of travel, even though central authority had broken down. There were trade routes, and as I said, along the way, people gave gifts and charity to travelers, especially pilgrims. There was Sufism, which, with the collapse of central authority too, Sufi institutions, these Sufi orders, had taken over, to a certain extent, maintaining common bonds between Muslims. And in fact, a lot of the places where he stayed were zawiyas, Sufi sort of hostels. Kind of like a combination of doing a Sufi motel where travelers could stay, and a teaching and learning center, meditation center. This was very important, and in fact, wherever he went, he found these, and he often found branches of the same Sufi orders in different places. Of course, probably one of the most important features is Islamic law. Wherever he went, he was in demand as a trained legal scholar. So yeah, it's really quite amazing that a guy from Tangier can get jobs in India and the Maldives. I think not until the modern era, I mean, this is what we call globalization now. This was a globalized economy of sorts, and Mr. Ibn Battuta was taking advantage of it. So there were a lot of features pulling the Islamic world together, and the final one is perhaps language. I mean, he was an Arabic speaker, he was a native Arabic speaker, which was important, and Arabic was the lingua franca of this entire area, and Persian to a lesser extent in the East. But Arabic, wherever you went, was the language of religious scholarship, and of course the language of the Quran. I mean, that's why it was so central. So he was lucky in that he was an Arabic speaker at a time when Arabic was widely spoken. You know, just as we're lucky to be English speakers, we can travel many places in the world right now without having to learn the local language for the same reason. I was going to say something about the non-Muslims that he met, but really I'd rather, since there's limited time, focus a little on the Muslims that he did with. As I say, I think his encounters with non-Muslims, well, his most difficult time was in China. I think that he had encountered Jews and Christians before in the Middle East, and was, you know, at times he could be less than tolerant, but that was familiar. China really threw him for a loop. But most of the people he met in his travels were Muslims of one variety or another. And in fact, an enormous number of them were relatively new Muslims. And this, I think, in fact, other than China, sent him for the greatest loop. He did have difficulty with people that he felt hadn't assimilated completely to Islam. So he often mentions his encounters with relatively new Muslims. He praises Turkish hospitality, for example, but he's upset by their habits of chewing hashish, and he's surprised that Turkish women go unveiled. In the Chagatai Khanate, he discovers that the Khan himself drinks this traditional fermented, they used to make fermented mare's milk. Horse milk, fermented, it's called hummus, and yeah, I can't imagine, dude. But it was traditional, and they had decided that this didn't count as alcohol, they would just drink it anyway. In the Maldives, where he was appointed a judge, he discovered that a lot of the women still went around topless. This kind of blew his mind, and he talks about that a lot, how he tried to put an end to this horrible behavior, and they just wouldn't listen to him. I mean, they were separated out from most of the Islamic world. They had not really assimilated that much. And again, in sub-Saharan Africa, a lot of the nudity of women bothered him a good deal. So in many cases, he was dealing with a kind of culture shock, but he was also dealing with this new, funny order that existed. New converts to Islam, and by new I mean 100 years, but still the process of Islamization was very slow. It's one of the reasons that it's such an interesting text, is because he does sort of map out for us this particular period in which those changes were taking place. Alright, so I think, well, you know what, I'm just going to finish it on that. I mean, obviously, Ibn Battuta's stories of exotic places and his adventures are very entertaining. Oh, I have one last slide. This is the Ibn Battuta Mall in Dubai. Yeah.
Not sure, no.
What? Oh, it's blue? Uh-oh. It's given up on me. Okay, it's given up on me. That's not the Ibn Battuta Mall in Dubai. Yeah, in Dubai, the Emirates, they built this enormous, massive complex, and they have like, well, I haven't been there, I've been looking at it online and kind of fascinated by this, a kind of Ibn Battuta experience Disneyland kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, Ibn Battuta means a lot of different things to different people. School kids in the Arab world read about Ibn Battuta as just an entertaining thing, you know, and it's fun, you know, reading about a traveler. Arab nationalists picked up on Ibn Battuta as a kind of explorer, equivalent to European explorers like Columbus, Vasco da Gama and stuff. And of course it's all very entertaining, but I think what I find most interesting and what I want to leave you with is the idea that it provides a kind of global perspective on the Islamic world at a transitional period. So, well, thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity. Food?
Q&A. A little intermission and then we'll have Q&A and then rocket.
Can we eat?
Why do you think that Ibn Battuta's journey and stuff is very not acknowledged compared to Marco Polo's, and he's seen more and taught more as like the greatest traveler? I mean, I've never heard of him.
Eurocentrism. That's a one-word answer. Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I think it is changing, and well, you were showing me a National Geographic thing, right? That had, yeah. So I mean, it's changing slowly. I think that's true. I mean, you know, actually, especially with everybody really wants to go eat. Should we just go eat first and then?
Professor, it's gonna take like 10 minutes to set up anyway, so regardless,
Okay,
let's go with the question. Yeah.
As a general rule, I mean, Western history of science, especially, and Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo get thrown into that category as sort of explorers. History of science has been really Eurocentric until very recently. And as it starts to move out of Europe into not only the Middle East, but also into India and China, looking back on the developments that have taken place all over the rest of the world, all these things where people said, oh, the first time this was done was in Europe at whatever, 13 whatever, they keep pushing those dates back. They keep going back further and further and further. They keep discovering things. And the Middle East, I mean, well, the Islamic world, you had a combination of all sorts of things. You had, first of all, it's in the middle of the world with trade routes to everybody. So it's absorbing ideas from China, from India, from all over the place. Second of all, they had paper very early, which was a big advantage. And third, rituals like the Hajj, they kept bringing people into the center and going out. There was an enormous emphasis in Islam, of course, on literacy, on learning. So it's not surprising that an awful lot of things would be first discovered in the Middle East. And I think it's not just Ibn Battuta, it's all sorts of other things, whether it's mechanical engineering or astronomy or whatever, chemistry, as people keep sort of exploring these things deeper in places like the Middle East, they keep finding that there's all sorts of stuff that's just been glossed over, completely ignored in the West. So that's the long answer. The short answer is Eurocentrism. In back, yeah.
I think it's interesting. In the Italian language, there's a word Battuta, and it has a bad meaning. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before.
It has what? The meaning of travel?
No. It means practical joke.
Oh.
But it's spelled the same way.
Somehow I doubt it.